Welcome to our LB's The Lover of Books author chat. If this is your first time here, live, or watching the recording, I'm so glad you found us. I've had the honor to interview over 80 debut to best-selling authors, and readers like you have helped my YouTube channel, LB The Lover of Books, grow and amass over 26,000 hours watched. So pretty impressive
Wow.
stuff, y'all. Y'all are killing it. I do appreciate you taking the time to like and comment on those videos and definitely subscribing. And the reason is because when you do all those things, it helps other readers find this content and want to know more. So thank y'all for doing that so much. We are here, though, to talk to Heather Aimee O'Neill. She is a Brooklyn based writer, editor, and a writing coach with nearly 20 years of experience helping authors refine their craft. So not only is she writing herself, but she's helping others do so as well. This is her first novel and also a read with Jenna Peck. So welcome much for joining us, Heather.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Okay, I have to ask. I'm a double name person, Laura
Mhm.
Beth. I know. Do you have Aimee on the book? Is this a double name or is that just how your author official name is?
No, it's just my author official name because there is a Heather O'Neill in Canada that
Okay.
I like since I started publishing like right out of college, I added my middle name to distinguish it. And then when my wife and I got married, we hyphenated our name. So it's Fisher O'Neill, but my agent was like, that is just way too many names. You can't do it. So I just kept it at Heather Aimee O'Neill, which is kind of, it's my website and it's sort of how people in the writing community know me. But no, I definitely don't go by Heather Aimee.
Heather Aimee.
It's
Or
just,
Ha.
it's just,
Or
but you know what's interesting? I don't know if you have this experience. So many people like I've known for years, students of mine or clients will call me Aimee or just email me and say, "Hi, Aimee." I don't know what it is. I don't know if like the Aimee just stands out. So I'm always curious about that with people who
my
have
guess
similar
is maybe
names.
they think it's more personal, possibly. Like maybe not as
Maybe.
many people call you that. And so it's, I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
kind of bizarre. I'm the opposite. If people just call me Laura, I'm like, who are you talking to? Like it doesn't even register with me. So,
Wow.
because I've always been Laura Beth or LB.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the opposite. But I'm not here to talk about my name. I'm definitely here to talk about the Irish goodbye. Can you talk about when you first started this book or when that
Mhm.
first idea started to germinate? Tell us where you were, what was happening, and how it came to you.
I was I had my publishing background is primarily in poetry, but I have an MFA in fiction and the editing work that I do is in fiction and memoir. And I did try many years ago to write a book, and I've told this story before, but my mentor from graduate school was very supportive of me, and he gave it to his agent, and she got back to me and said that she liked the language, but there was like no plot to the story. So which I didn't, I really, really, truly did not know what she was talking about. And it took me years to figure it out. And and it was also teaching and editing that really helped me figure that out. And at the time that I started this book, I had been editing for well over I guess just at about a decade. And I was really ready to try a new project. And I was in a class with Victoria Rendell. I don't know if anyone's familiar with her. She's actually a poet, novelist, as well. And it was at the Fine Arts Center in P Town. I had won a free workshop, like a free week of workshop, which was so lovely. And I began to really think like, what is the story I want to tell? What is the story I want to tell? And I continued to come back to I wanted to tell a story about a family. I'm really close with my family. Family is very important to me. And I also really wanted to write about grief. My family has experienced a lot of grief. Um, but I didn't want to write the story of my family. So then it became like, okay, well, who is this family and what is the story I'm gonna write? And the original um, story was like Topher had died on 9/11, which my family suffered from a lot of loss on 9/11. And I had felt for years like that was something I wanted to write about, but it was too personal. I didn't want to kind of get into the weeds there. And so then I was at an event with my wife for the JED Foundation, which is this incredible organization that provides resources for college campuses for suicide prevention. And I know people who've died by suicide, and I was just so moved and touched by the stories that were being shared. And I kind of walked away from that night and I was like, that's what I'm going to write about. This is what I'm gonna, sorry, am I like noticing this weird thing in the video, but this is what I want to write about. And then once I figured that out, it kind of like really began to come together.
So that sounds like it was pretty, not heavy, but like it really made an impression on you. And that was when did that, do you remember how many years?
2018.
Okay. So then you have this idea, and then
Mhm.
from there, do you just start writing it at that point, or are you plotting? Like what was your process to get us where we are here today?
Yeah, so then I started kind of a big part of my process is always like sketching out ideas. I always write in a notebook first. So I was sketching out a bunch of ideas and then it occurred to me, I was like, why? I know so many people who are such incredible readers and who do the exact work that I do. Like, why am I not working with somebody in that same capacity? And so I reached out to my friend Nancy and colleague Nancy, and I was like, I want to hire you to help me in the way that like I help other people. She was like, great, let's get started. And that really transformed. I mean, it was such a transformative experience in so many ways. One, because as an editor, as an independent editor, you're just kind of in your own zone and you're doing what you think is, the best for your writers and for the stories that they're trying to tell. But working with somebody else, I got like a totally different perspective on how someone else does it, and it was really helpful for me in that regard, and it just gave me so much motivation and it was kind of a feeling of letting go from an expectation of I need to do this all on my own and getting to share the page. I shared the pages with her every other week. And this was like deep into COVID because, like again, I kind of started in 2019. So it was like perfect. Like we would spend, an hour on Thursday afternoon talking about the work. And it just really helped me in so many ways. And I would say also, kind of getting back to the impact that it had on me as a teacher and an editor and as a coach, um, it was it gave me a boost in that regard because I was like, God, this really does work. This really is so helpful, you know. So that was kind of where I began the journey, and then it took several years to write. And I'm a
Well,
big outliner. I love to outline and I outline everything. I outline, the whole story. I mean, not that it doesn't change, but I outline the whole story and then I outline chapters and I outline scenes. I'm constantly thinking about that
and
from a
your grocery
structural
list
perspective. What's that?
and your grocery shopping list too. Are you
I
that much
am,
of a
I always say my wife is a big meditator and I'm like, all I do when we sit and meditate, like if I join her, is that I'm like planning the grocery list. That's true.
Okay, well, I hope Nancy sees this because it shows how much she meant to you and her process to you for this book.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful comment. I have had some authors say that they don't so much like the editing portion of their
hmm
book, but since you do that for others, what's your impression on doing it for yourself? And how do you do that? Like, I mean, like really, how
Yeah.
do you separate? Are you able to separate out a little bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, I do think that, helping other writers and other writers trusting me with their work and being able to see the process, like the process that writing goes through from beginning to, it's like the Anne Lamont shitty first draft to the final draft. And it for me, it's like thousands of edits in between, probably on every page, Um, and so I love being edited. I love being a student. I like being the one in the class that, gets to just sort of sit back and be taught. And I love to be edited. And I can also be discerning, and which is something that I would expect from a writer that I'm working with as an editor. If it doesn't make sense or it doesn't ring true, that, it could be reevaluated somehow. Or
Well, I love
and
that it
for
is.
me, like a blank page is like that's like the oof, you know. But I love editing. I love the editing process.
Well, it seems like it also inspired you to really be engaged into your own editing job for others and coaching. So, what has been the reaction from your students with you getting published with your debut book? Like, has that also created a spark in them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I don't know if a lot of people have asked me that question, but I think it's because publishing is so difficult, and I mean it's writing's tough, and there's a lot of rejection, and I do think that when you experience somebody in your community that has a positive experience, that it you know what is the expression? High tides,
Oh,
raise all boats or whatever.
yeah, when tides in, we all rise, or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that there's a lot of truth to that. So I hope that and I think that's been the experience. It's certainly what has been shared with me. A lot of people didn't know I was working on a novel, so a lot of them were like, "Wait, I didn't know that you were doing that." So
Surprise.
yeah,
Well, I'm sure your wife knew because that it
she
has taken
definitely
quite a
did.
bit of time. And
Yeah,
let's go ahead and just talk about your setup of this book because,
sure.
what makes this book, I feel like, are your characters, and you seem to know them in and out because they are
Mhm.
so different, but how they react to each other, what just prickles them, what makes them smile, chuckle, everything. How did you do that? And tell us why you chose each of those characters.
That's another really great question. I knew that I have sisters. I wanted to write about the impact of loss on like on a really intimate group of people. And so at first it started with like I wrote all the points of view of every character. So or not every, but every character in the family. So the parents were included. And then the more that the story began to evolve, the more I began to see it as kind of a story of these women, these sisters, and the role that they've played in each other's lives, the role that these tragedies have played in their lives, and the way that they have been impacted differently. And so, one of the big questions for me, as I was saying earlier, I wanted to write about grief, but I also wanted to write about masks, like mask wearing, secrets, the impact of that, the burden, the collateral damage. And I had to figure out, it couldn't just be like, okay, so they all lost their brother and this was really hard. I had to figure out like what was happening in their life at this particular moment. And so to be perfectly honest, it's like all of them are examining things that I am interested in, or that the women that and even the men that I know are kind of interested in at a certain point, or like a certain coming of age into adulthood, where you have to confront things like, aging parents, and decisions over family planning, and you're, in your 30s and you're still hung up on what your mother thinks, and that's like holding you back. Um, Being the caretaker like Alice, and being like that's a role. It's like a role in some ways that she signed up for. I think it's a role that has offered her some fulfillment, also some distraction from having to pay attention to what she wants and like her own sense of self and selfhood. She's kind of hid behind it, but now she does want something else. She is like longing for selfhood. And so I just felt like these were all topics that I myself and the people that I know were grappling with in some way or another. And so I just wanted to put them all together and have it explode over one weekend.
So I did choose this novel specifically to be set now so that people could read this over Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
I don't know that we have so many books that occur, current day at Thanksgiving table, but I will say that this one, the plot, it moved. Like I didn't know how
Mhm.
much of a slow burn it was going to be,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
constantly was wanting to know what happened.
Mhm.
You did use the time to go back for some of
Mhm.
those views. Why did you want to do that and give that to us? Which I loved, by the way. But
Mhm.
tell us about that thought process.
I originally, when I kind of outlined it and conceived of the structure, I was going to do a sort of parallel timeline, like the story of the family in the 90s and the story now. But then I was like, well, there's also this third timeline of like when Topher died. So then I added in a third, and it just got like way too dense and way too messy. And so I took out all of that backstory. I mean, it was like well over 100 pages, and I really narrowed it down to like what was the most essential, what was the most important. So many of those scenes that are now flashback previously had been, full length chapters, and there was a kind of weaving in and out of the past. But the more I was writing, the more I wanted to pay attention to the present. It's almost like the past is what has brought them to this particular moment. Um, but I wanted to be most engaged with the characters in scene.
Well, the past is a distraction for them, right? And I mean, I think it is
Yeah.
for all of us in a lot of ways, in that, something will trigger a thought, a flashback, and that was the
Hmm.
perfect way to give us that their perspective right then in current time, because I felt like that's what was happening. So I was still
Yeah.
in present time. But it is just so fascinating how you did weave that in and out, because it just was so seamless, and I don't see that so often. So
Mm.
kudos to you on that. It was it was very, very smooth. I really liked it.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. For me, that was like, I would say one of the biggest challenges of the story's construction. It constantly felt like I was playing Jenga. I was like, where is this gonna go? And how is this gonna, and um so it's kind of neat to see it now all sort of laid out and together, but that was its own process for sure.
So the Jenga piece is obviously a difficult part when putting the book together. Did you have a specific part of the book that was just harder for you to write, or a character, or, was it pretty even spread across?
I would say the character that was the hardest for me to write was the character of the mother, Nora. She just continued to feel really inaccessible to me. That's why I think I made her inaccessible to the daughters, to the sisters, because she really was inaccessible to me. But also, she was partially modeled off of a woman I know, a friend who had a similar background, life experience, although my friend is not like her at all in personality, but her background. And then also a friend of mine, her mother, where that kind of reserved nature um, was always kind of haunting and to me in a way, and I have always wanted to write about that. So I began to infuse that into her character, but she took a while for me to kind of understand. I think mother characters are just hard to write. I mean, I I also one of the other challenges with writing her character is I was very resistant to the like idea that the mother is to blame for everything narrative. I'm a mother myself. Mothering is hard, so I didn't want to kind of go down that path. But I could also see that she really had caused a lot of pain for herself and for her children, because of the circumstances of her own past. Um, so she was probably the most difficult for me.
Yeah, I mean, somebody in the Zoom said that they need that 100 pages. I'm thinking it's for a character analysis, just for us to figure her out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I did I did like that you threw them together at a Thanksgiving table when there was, I mean, it had to be a blow up. Like you just saw it coming. Alice didn't want to spend the night. She's there. Kate's doesn't know what's happening with Luke. It just, um, I don't know. I thought it was a good setup. But I want to talk about the characters that you do throw in there. One of them
Mm.
is Isabel, who I think probably has the highest emotional IQ out of the whole bunch.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I just wanted to talk about why you put those characters in, and
Hmm.
and what they meant for the story.
Yeah, because there were so many factors in the story I that were very insular, right? Like, I mean, it takes place primarily just in one house, so it
Mhm.
has a kind of I don't know, to me that there was like almost like a cinematic or theatrical sort of staging of the location and the setting, but it was also limiting. So that's why I did things
Well,
like I made it snow and um
well, hint, hint, movies, pay
yeah,
attention. Cinematic,
yeah.
cinematic. I'm just saying.
Oh gosh, from your lips to God's ears. Um and like threw in the raccoon and just like giving them something like things that they had to do or take care of or that were a nuisance. But then and in a similar way, the side characters had to illuminate the family as well, or that's why what I wanted them to do. I think particularly with Maggie, um, you know, the character, like her bringing Isabel into that space, it's an opportunity for her. And I think a lot of people have had this experience in their families or even like in a friend group where you bring in somebody like a quote unquote outsider and not just by having that person there, you have a different lens on the people around you, people that you know really well. You're kind of seeing them maybe differently or a little bit like through that other person's perspective. And that could be a good thing or it could be a hard thing. So I wanted that for Maggie, but also I wanted I felt like Maggie bringing Isabel gave Maggie's family an opportunity to see her differently, certainly for her mother to see her differently, for this to be kind of more real and not so abstract. But Maggie's really like there's a lot of immaturity to her. Like she has to grow up. And I think that Isabel's good for her. I think Isabel is she doesn't, she's kind of no bullshit.
Yeah.
She takes care of herself and she takes care of Maggie if Maggie lets her. And so she was a super fun character for me to write. And
I
she's fun too. She's like
yeah.
funny, which, that was helpful.
I mean, yeah, there are so few characters, right, in this book, like you said, because it's either in the car, the
Hmm.
plane, or the house, a little bit in the
Yeah.
hospital, right? But it's
Yeah.
pretty much just right there. And so for me, she made them see how much they pretend or that mask that you
Yeah.
talked about. Like she was the mirror for that. And she could point it out and be like, Maggie, look, if we'd have kept up the charade, think of how much harder that would
Yeah.
have been. Just it was
Yeah.
I did like her.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah. And even that particular moment where Isabel says to Maggie, like, think about how if we had said that came to me as like a writer. I was like, oh, wait a second. If they had done this, then they would have to continue doing that. Should I do that? And then I was like, no, 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 no. Isabel would not allow that. So yeah, she is. She's like the truth teller, but in a way that I think is like an interesting contrast to Cait. Like Cait's a bit of a truth teller, but she's also a troublemaker. And I think like she's telling other people's truths and she's kind of calling out other people to me as a way to protect herself. Whereas I think Isabel is just like, no, we need to tell the truth here. Like this is going to make things a lot easier and let's just be straightforward.
well,
Um,
you said truth teller, and she's actually she reads tarot cards, which is
yeah,
interesting
that's
as
true.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's delightful. I will say, Cait was the one that brought up, that they were a lesbian couple right to the father, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, you wonder what her motives are at the time, where I never question Isabel's motives.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's keep moving.
Mhm.
You made a comment that said, when you said, "Does everyone want to be known?" I've been thinking
Mm.
about this and I was just questioning it and with these characters and why you brought that up.
Uh-huh.
Can you talk a little bit? Because it kind of came up towards the beginning of the book.
Yeah. I think that was a major theme for me, like just as a writer and as a person to explore. And I think that probably comes from my experience of growing up gay and not feeling like I could be out and share that. So there was a lot of kind of hiding of myself in very formative years. And then in my first marriage, I got divorced. And prior to the divorce, I was not really vocal with those closest to me about my unhappiness. And it felt like a second coming out. And when that happened, I was like, God, I really need to get my shit together and like not be hiding so much, but I was like, it was that feeling of, it's not that I didn't want to be known. I just was scared that if I was known, I would be rejected. And I think those are two really different things. I think everyone wants to be known, but I think the fear is if I am known, will I still be loved? Will I still be cared for? So that to me felt like a major theme in the whole book, you know.
Well, now I'm wondering, do you think that's why so many, or why some of the people did not know that you were writing a book? Is that still a
A
tendency?
hundred percent. Yes, 100%. I still like I am a pretty like private person in many ways, like I do kind of keep things to myself. And yeah, that there's probably truth to that.
So how has this changed for you? I mean, this is your breakout book, not only
Yeah.
a book, but it was a read with Jenna pick. So I mean, it went huge, and
Yeah.
you're, kind of to yourself. So how have you handled this, and what have you learned from it? And just tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Like it was the last thing I expected. I was just like, I'm gonna try to write another book and see kind of what happens. And then I can't express enough how surprising it was and how unexpected and how deeply, deeply grateful I am. And I was talking to my friend Matt, who's here tonight. We were talking about this last night, and I was saying that one of the thing to me that feels um so that I like one of the things I'm so grateful for in this whole process is it isn't like having like this big book, but it's like connecting to readers. And I was talking to Laura Beth about this with you earlier, that there's like this whole community of people that I was not aware of. So that's been like so incredible. And then, but the other thing is when I was trying to get this book published and trying to share the book, that my top priority was I was like, obviously I want people to like it, but I just want to keep doing it. I want the opportunity to keep doing the work. And so that feels like the greatest gift of that the Jenna, that like being the Jenna October pick has kind of offered, is that like, and sharing it with so many people, and then also the opportunity to continue doing it. I cannot believe that is a consequence of it. It's not what I was expecting.
Well, and I'm not alone. I'm so glad that you are going to be continuing this, and I cannot
Mm.
wait to see what is coming next from you. I know that you are just coming off this. Have you already started plotting and having that notebook and, all
Yeah,
that
I'm
stuff?
like well into a second book, which I'm really excited about, and I'm just like really loving. And I've already sold it, so I have a deadline, and it's quite a deadline. It's in September, so I hope that I can meet it. But I I I I think more about the reading that you where I met you in person in Charlotte. We were kind of talking about this, that in some of the events people have asked about a kind of like a second book to The Irish Goodbye. And at first, when somebody said that, I was like, no, I don't think so. I think I just want them to be able to like rest and like take it easy. But since then, I've received the question so many times, and now I'll find myself like walking or driving and plotting out like, oh, well, do Cait and Luke get together? I don't know. Maybe they do. So um, I could see that being like a third book if I'm granted the opportunity to write a third book. So
Well,
we'll see.
bring it. You write it. We will read it. And I'm just excited that the characters are still talking to you. And they're like you said, at first you thought you were just going to lay them to rest, but really they weren't ready to rest, hopefully. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I feel like
yeah,
maybe they have some more things to say.
yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine Cait not having something more to say
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
ever. Um, all right, another important. We talked about, being known. Another thing that I saw that kept
Mm.
peeking in there was the sense of smell. And
And you are that you're a good reader.
well, I just love I love reading books that are so well written. And
Oh,
I am just like really loving this book. I did notice, that when Maggie was traveling home for Thanksgiving, she wanted to wear one of Isabella's shirts. So
mhm,
Isabel's shirt so she could, smell her.
mhm,
Topher's beads came up.
mhm.
Their initial reaction was for them to smell his scent.
Yeah,
Alice had Topher's ashes, and that was her, that smell. I don't know, it kept happening.
yeah.
So, what is it about it that really drew you to putting this so much into the book?
I really do have a very strong sense of smell. So like and the things that I love to smell, like, like my wife and like my children, even they're like teenage boys and I still like the way they smell. Not all the time, I'll say, but or like puppy breath, like all it's like I just I yeah, it's um it's a big part of the way I move through the world. In fact, I probably cut out like many scent references because I was like, okay, enough. Um, but
There's a
yeah, I
children's
just
book in there somewhere. There's a
yeah,
children's book in there with scent somewhere. I'm just saying.
yeah. But it's interesting because my mom does not have a sense of smell. And yeah, it's like this it's part of like an autoimmune disorder that she has. And so but for me it's such a way I move through the world.
Well, and it's such a trigger as well. I feel like to
Yeah.
get you into those flashbacks, which I think also helped throughout the book because that did keep happening, which
Yeah.
I appreciated. All right. I have lots more questions.
Mhm.
One is about the book that you've mentioned. Can you talk about anything about it at all? I know the deadline's September.
The next book.
Yes.
It is, yeah, I definitely don't have my pitch down. But it is about the way I've been describing it is about three people who get caught up in a high stakes surrogacy where alliances shift throughout the course of the pregnancy. There is a major crisis, not with the pregnancy, I will say. So I wasn't gonna go there. But like within the relationship dynamics. And one of the characters is a kind of Gatsby character. And it takes place on a kind of fictional island called Winter Island, which I'm basically modeling it off of an island called Fisher's Island, which is off the coast, like in between Connecticut and New York, and it's this kind of like old money enclave. So it's got like privilege and art and what makes a family and desire. So, and
Mhm.
I think that there's 27 chapters, and I'm on the fourth chapter. Still
Well,
have
that
a way
sounds
to go.
intriguing. Does this take place over a chunk of time, or is it going to be a short? I mean, obviously, sort pregnancies do take 9 months. So is it like
Yeah,
the whole, is
yeah,
it going to be like a big chunk, not like a,
yeah. No, it's not going to be a weekend. It's going to be probably like a year.
okay, okay. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm excited that you're on chapter 4. Keep going. Like,
yeah.
all right, I am going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Oh gosh.
And
Okay.
everybody be thinking of what questions you would like to ask Heather, and then we will go from there. All right,
Mhm.
Heather, are you
Yes,
ready?
yes.
What's one word to describe you?
Present,
Are you a slow or a fast driver?
slow.
Sushi or ramen?
Sushi. I have celiac, so I can't eat ramen.
All right, pick a movie to watch next.
A movie that I've seen before, or
Your choice. You can go
okay.
with something random or a favorite.
Um, I'm just gonna throw this out there because I've loved it so much. The new Frankenstein movie. I
Okay.
want to watch it again with my younger son, so I've been thinking about that.
Excellent. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
My father's gravy,
Coffee or tea?
coffee. I'm
What-
drinking tea right now, but I love coffee.
All right. Last, what's your favorite smell?
Oh God, just the smell of my wife's skin.
Lovely. I love it. All right, team. Do you have a question, Leslie? I know you're on and you had a question that you had said you were going to ask. Did you want to ask that question or do you want me to ask it? All right. Here it is. She said, no, you. Okay. So her observation is about Catholicism and when we do the Irish goodbye. So she's, explained Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, significant parts of the last, those major holidays. But she
Mm.
said when she grew up in a religion, the religious family, she assumed everyone knew the rules. I really
Mm.
enjoyed the part of the book, and in Louisiana Catholic churches, they're literally across the street from each other. But she's curious if you were Catholic and what inspired you to include so much about the faith and, of course, Catholic guilt.
I don't consider myself Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I consider myself maybe culturally Catholic, because it's like very much a part of my family. Um, but I went to Catholic school for, when I was younger, and the town that I grew up in Huntington, Long Island, was just, it was very Catholic. All of my friends were Catholic. And I didn't realize that like not everybody was Catholic until I went to college and was like, oh, not everybody's Catholic. That's interesting. Um, but thankfully I didn't grow up with that kind of Catholic guilt, the oppression of that. But I know a lot of people who have, and people where it's caused a lot of conflict in their family lives. And so I wanted to write about that, but I didn't want to write about. I certainly didn't want to write in any disparaging way about Catholicism. I think that for Nora, her faith is extremely important to her, and it was like the thing that saved her as a kid. But I think sometimes the thing that saves you at one point in your life can also be the thing that like prevents you from being saved at another point in your life. Um and so that was my kind of interest in exploring religion, I would say, or
Awesome.
Catholicism.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All
and
right,
I think probably,
Anissa.
well,
Oh, sure, go
I'll just
ahead.
say one more thing, one more
Yes.
thing. I think probably like there was, for me growing up gay, I didn't subscribe to this idea that like I was gonna go to hell because I was gay, but I kind of did, like when I was younger. And um, so it was this weird thing, right? To be like part of this community, part of these people, but to know that you don't belong, really. Like if it, again, kind of going back to the being known or not known, um, to know that you're like who you are as a person is not going to be okay. I think that inevitably that creates a conflict, and so maybe I was trying to work out some of that conflict on the page.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's part of why Maggie responds the way she does. She's all the time trying to cover up
Hmm.
anything that might expose or, make her stand
Yeah,
out in a certain way. So,
yeah, yeah.
wow, fascinating. All right, Anissa, I'm gonna highlight you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you,
Hi, Anissa.
Barbara. Hi, Heather. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm curious. You talked about Nora, the mother, being the hardest character to write, and I know in
Mm,
a lot of the different Zooms we've done with authors or in-person author events, a lot of authors have said that if they were maybe having a little bit of difficulty writing, or if it was just a tougher day, or if they even had a shorter amount of time to write, that they always had maybe a certain character that was their kind of go-to character, and they knew if they wrote that person that day, a
mm.
scene with that person, that that would help their writing along. So was there someone that was maybe you felt that you connected with the most of all your characters that you would use in that way?
I don't. I connected to all three of the point of view characters, all three of the sisters. But I will say that my kind of go-to strategy. for that, if I'm having like a tough writing day or like I can't get into it, it is I'll think about like what is the scene in the book that I really want to write. Like so if it's like a scene in chapter 18 that's gonna I may not write until I don't know, like May. I'll just like jump into it and I'll write it. And it'll just be like a draft, but I'm like, oh, now I kind of have a sense of that scene, and it kind of it's almost like relieves an itch. And also then it gives me a little bit of perspective on like where it's headed, where
Mhm.
the story is headed. So that's
Hmm.
kind of my go-to.
I
Well,
like
that's
that. It's kind of
interesting.
like your cookie, your Isabel's cookie treat. You're giving yourself a
Yeah,
treat to keep going.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm
It
one of
doesn't
those.
all have to be miserable.
And I'm one of those ones that's team, another book or whatever. I think I asked you that when I was in Charlotte that maybe you
Yeah.
could even go back and write a prequel or whatever.
Oh,
But
I know. I loved that suggestion.
I would be happy with any part of, getting to hear more about. I mean, I think you did a great way in ending it, so I think it's fine where you are. But I just think your characters are so interesting that it'd be fun to see what happened with a lot of them. Thank
Oh,
you, LB.
thank
Thank you
you.
for getting us the best authors like you always do.
Thank you so much. That was such a great question. I'm gonna ask, does anybody else have a question? I do see a comment in here. Rachel made an observation I had noticed, but on the Libby app, that there's now a whole section on Read with Jenna. Did you know that? And
Yes, I
so,
did know that. That was just launched, I think, recently, actually, like within like it was launched around the time that my book was picked. So I knew that that was like there, but
yeah,
it's very cool.
that is cool because you are going to reach more people that way. How did you
Yeah.
find out about Read with Jenna?
My editor called me and I just, usually we kind of communicate over email. If there's something important, we'll set up a call, but she just called me out of the blue and I was like, I almost was like worried, like, oh gosh, is something wrong? Did something happen? And she told me and I just was totally stunned. But I, let out like, some enthusiastic response and my older son came running down the stairs. And I went to tell him and she was like, no, 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 you can't, sir. And I was like, you can't tell anybody. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you can't, like, if they're really strict about it, they'll, like, you can tell your wife, but that's it. And so I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my sisters, my mom, my therapist. But as my friend Matt will attest to, my wife was like, chomping at the bit. And so she would say, like, there's going to be big news. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there's going to be big news. So she was always, and then we'd like leave a dinner party. I'm like, you have to stop, like, doing that. But because I'm good. I'm good with, not revealing things. So
I love that you had the same reaction as Maggie. Was it Dr. Cunningham, whatever the head about the
yeah,
school has the message, and she like panics and reacts in such a horrible way, thinking it's bad
yeah.
news.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that would be absolutely what I would assume.
All right. It looks like your friend Matt here has a question. Go ahead. Hey
Oh,
guys.
Matt and Izzy.
Hi, so good to see you. Um,
Likewise.
so the when Maggie and Nora was speaking and the Blue Jay comment came up,
Mhm.
that really stuck with me. And
Hmm.
I was curious, and I didn't get a chance to ask you this when we were talking, so I'll ask now. Um, was that something you always like you heard at some point and wanted to put in a book or in your writing, or was it that you wanted to be able to in some way represent this idea of people not seeing what's really there? So this is with the blue jay being actually, I think, brown, but then the way the
Yeah,
light hits
yeah.
it. So for me, that was a beautiful scene, and I was just curious, like how it found its way into the book.
It's a great question. The way it found its way into the book was during like one editing process when I was like early on and I was trying to develop Maggie a little bit more. And one afternoon I was like, okay, what? Like I just was like sketching out like, who is she? Oh, she's an English teacher. So she's going to be like referencing maybe more things. And so then I was like, I don't want her like walking around, quoting like Yates and but like where like what are opportunities for it to come up? And that's always like been a quote that I love. And I felt like thematically, as we were talking about earlier, it fit into the story. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have her say it to her mother. And I think also like, her mother, she's a painter, so she notices the world in kind of
Yeah.
another way and in a very different way. And she doesn't really see she's got a lot of blind spots. And I felt like that was a little bit ironic that she was kind of saying to her youngest daughter, like, people don't see what's really there. And her daughter's like, yeah, company included.
Thank
Great
you. That
observation, Matt. Like
yeah.
I too loved that scene. It just felt so natural. And that's why I think I
Mm,
love this book so much because it just flowed. Like it just seemed like I could be in the room next door to them when they're talking about this, It was
Oh, thank you.
really great. Thank you, Matt. Thank y'all for joining from Buenos Aires. All right, I do have a question about, oh, bye guys. I'll let y'all have a break. All right, I have a question about this cover.
Okay.
Was this something you had an opinion in, helped with, or you just sort of let the team do their thing?
Yeah, we were actually joking about this exact thing last night. My wife and I were on a call with Matt and Izzy like a Zoom call last night, and I was joking that like in my contract with like Henry Holt and whatever, I'll like look at it and I'll look for things like, do I get a say in the cover? And do I get a say in like who reads the audiobook? And I don't pay attention to anything else. And then my wife will be like, well, when are you gonna get paid? And I'll be like, I have no idea. So that was something that I did like actually pay attention to. And yeah, I did. I don't think that I got like final vote, but I got the whatever the wording is so that I got to have a say. But
You had
that
a
was
seat at the
like,
table.
yes. And I felt like that was actually pretty awesome because I know people who don't have that. And I know people who are not happy with their covers, and that's a real bummer, because you're putting this thing out in the world that's so meaningful to you and you've worked so hard on. Um, Oh, I was like, there was like a floating heart and I was
Oh,
like,
it was exciting.
uh,
So on this,
mhm.
what's your opinion? Like, I hope it stays out in hardback for quite some time. But when
Yeah.
it does go to paperback, what's your thought on that as an author? Like, do you like it when they switch up the cover, or do you think it should
Well,
just stay?
well, I'll tell you, so super exciting part of this is that it's sold in a bunch of countries. So it's coming out in the UK and Ireland in February. I'm going to be going there for that, but it's sold in France, in Germany, in Italy, in Portugal. I feel like I'm maybe missing something, but uh, so I'm just so thrilled by that, and I'm so excited to see because they all have different covers, and I think that's so wonderful. And I can't wait to hear what the titles are going to be like in these other languages, and that feels really thrilling to me. So yeah, I'd like the more creative energy that goes into interpreting the book. I think it's wonderful.
Well, I don't know if you did have a say in the narrator, but I thought she was really good. I liked her. And I don't know that I've
I
heard
loved
her a
her.
lot, but she's good.
She was fabulous. I know. I did. I got like, they gave me different choices, and I was like, oh yeah, that's her.
All right. So you're going to get to go to Ireland and England for a tour.
For a little, like, yeah, just like some events there, and I'm really excited.
Oh, that is exciting. I'm excited for you. Do you have
Yeah.
any of the copies of the other covers that you can show us, or maybe we can just find them online? Are they out
I
yet?
did. Yeah, I did just do. I don't have the hardcover because the hardcover for the UK and the Ireland uh, book is it coming out in February. So I actually don't have a hard copy of that right now, but I did a cover reveal on my Instagram page. So if you go on there, you can see it. It's beautiful. It's like not totally different, but very different in the same way. And it's just so lovely. It's gorgeous. I couldn't be happier.
Well, I know we talked earlier, I'm like talking to the gods about getting this book to a movie. But do you think
Gosh, I
about
would
that,
love
about
that.
having
Yes,
what actors, actresses you think could fit in
totally.
those roles? And if so, tell us about it.
Okay, my dream is um that Meryl Streep would play the mother, and then her Meryl Streep's actual three daughters are all the ages of the three sisters. And so I would want all of them to play the three sisters. That's my dream.
Oh,
So if
that would
anyone
be
knows, the Streep family,
that's a dream come true. Like for
yeah.
real, if
And then like Jodie Foster directing it or something, like
what about the dad? What about Robert?
I don't know, maybe Pierce Brosnan or something for the dad. I don't know. But my older son is in college for acting, so I'm like maybe he could play like young Topher. I don't know. So yeah, these are things I think about.
Absolutely. I don't know if Pierce is aloof enough for
That's a good point.
the
Yeah,
father. He
that's a
seems
good point.
so present. I mean, he's a great actor. Maybe he just hasn't had
Yeah.
a chance to play that role yet. But
Yeah. Yeah.
well, that would be so exciting. I do hope it happens. Can you tell us a little bit about how it's been going from debut book to trying to write that sophomore book? Is it as hard as people say, or have you found it because you have this great plotting and you have such a great system in place that it's worked better?
Yeah. I think that this time around it's like feeling easier, but I don't want to jinx myself. Um, but yeah, I feel like I have a lot of momentum and a lot of support, and I have more time, which is, I'm not spending as much time editing and teaching. I still am, but it's not quite as intensive. And so I can really like immerse myself in it all. And I've just done like a ton of compartmentalizing of like I don't read any reviews. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I'm just like, no, like I really love to talk to readers, and I love to be like, talking to other writers and present in the work. And that's kind of like where I keep it. Like I'm very boundaried, I would say.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say that you've had some pretty magical experiences. I know just the one that I shared and was able
Mhm.
to go to in Charlotte, there was it's an artist, of course she's
Oh,
alive,
yes.
doing this
Yes.
painting of the cover while we were
Yeah.
at the event. Like, how
Yeah.
cool is that? Like, I just feel
Heidi
like it,
Kushner. She's anybody who's looking for some good artwork. She's a gorgeous, 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 gorgeous painter in Charlotte, North Carolina.
well,
Originally a New Yorker, but now in
I'll
Charlotte.
say she didn't sound like a North Carolinian.
Yeah.
What has been the most magical or the most exciting or maybe surprising thing that's happened along this journey for you that sort of just like pinch me? How is this, like is
Oh
there
God. I like I would the night before I did meeting Jenna Hagerbush like in person was I'm not somebody who is usually like starstruck or like, but I just was so overwhelmed with gratitude and awe, that I was in her presence. And I would say that has been like the most surprising and, just not anything I would have expected. There's like a picture of me like holding my mouth and like bending backwards because I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. And it's just so not me to be that way.
I will say that's not a Brooklyn thing. Like most
No.
Brooklyn's like, oh, there's like
Yeah,
crazy.
no.
Okay,
I was totally, and it's like that was only a few months ago, but I feel like there was it feels like a long time ago now in a way.
Well, a lot's happened in between, I will
It
say.
has. It's
And
been
Nathan,
busy.
you are back. Do you have something else you wanted to ask?
I just wanted to say
Mm.
one thing real quick. Heather, the week that LB and I saw you in Charlotte, that same week I saw Jenna in Charleston, South Carolina later on that week, and I
Oh my
told her that
gosh.
I had met you, and she was so excited. She's like, "Isn't she just the greatest?" And just
Oh.
talked and talked and talked, and I told her how much that I had loved the book. Linda, that's on here, that's it's also in our book club. Linda was there too, and it was just that's the second time that I've met Jen in person, but she's just like you said, it's just there's just something about meeting her and just what she
Yeah.
does for authors and readers alike is just amazing. It's just
Yeah.
and a lot of people ask me, do I think, she's really like that? And I really do think she is.
Yeah.
I don't think I've met her enough via Zoom, via, in person or whatever that I feel, and I love how she finds debuts, and I love that she found your
Yeah.
book because I think a lot of books obviously would never have been found if she
Yeah.
hadn't put them out there. So but yeah, I
Yeah.
had meant to tell you that before, and
Oh,
with
that's so
LB and
sweet.
you saying
Thank
that,
you.
yeah, because that was the first one of the first things I said to her. We had met her there with Ariel Sullivan, and
Okay.
when I got a chance to talk to Jenna for a minute or two
Mhm.
by myself, I had told her about having met you earlier in the week.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you. Yes, I like my experience with her. She was so genuine and so smart and so funny and so
Mhm.
warm. But not only that, like if anybody that you talk to on her team is like that, and they
Mhm.
all say the same thing about her. Like there's just a good vibe in that whole group.
Yeah, Julia has told me that, she's that Julie herself's just like it's the greatest job that you could have in the world. You work forever, and like Cait and so many of them, it's like they work all day long every day or whatever, but working
Yeah.
for Jen is just amazing.
Well, she has
Thank
definitely
you.
created a wonderful community of
Mhm.
readers
Yeah.
and of authors. So we're so glad that you're a part of it and that you've also
Mm.
joined a part of our Bookstagram or that sort of, book community. So please let us know when you are going to be writing more. Keep us posted. You heard her
Yes.
say that that cover reveal was on her Instagram. So I've been kind of off a little bit. I don't think I've posted in a while, but I will definitely be going back. So take a look at her Instagram page. Thanks for that, Anissa. Um, well, it has definitely been a fantastic night of discussion. I probably could keep asking you questions because I have so much I would love to discuss with you. But readers, y'all have been wonderful. Thank you, Matt, for asking questions, Anissa, everybody, and those in the chat. But I want you to remember how I know she's not reading those reviews, but other readers are. So if you do get the chance, please rate and review this
Yes.
book on
Please.
whichever venue you use. Just it helps for other readers to find it. But
Yeah.
Heather, this is straight for you. I want to thank you for helping us to get straight to the heart of things, to know
Mm.
that you can feel grim satisfaction and remorse all at the same time, or maybe cry tears of relief and heartache all at once. To think
Mm.
out that we are finding our way back, or maybe let it go, to not be afraid of being caught in a cloud, and to always remember to ask yourself and your loved ones, are you happy? So just it was so beautiful.
That
I
was
hope you
so
all enjoyed
beautiful,
it
Laura Beth.
as
Will
much
you
as
send
I
that
did.
to me?
I will.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just so, oh, and I don't, oh, you probably haven't seen it, but I interviewed John Boyne a couple of weeks ago for The
No, but I
Elements.
have his book. I'm so excited to read it.
Okay, guess what? So when I was saying that I was going to be interviewing you, he said, "Okay, here's the official, the Irish goodbye," and then he left.
Oh my
So
God. That is so awesome.
yeah, he said he wants to read your book. Like I think he
Oh
has
my
it. I don't know.
God.
So you'll have to go back and watch it when you need a little pick me up. It's
I will definitely know that will be happening tomorrow.
All right, so I'm going to get to my next one. So in 1 week on Sunday, December 14th at 3 p.m., so note the earlier time, we'll be discussing Culpability with Bruce Holsinger. This was an Oprah's book club pick and is described as a family drama with a shocking twist. Bruce Holsinger tackles timely topics and ties that bind and culpability. Who's who of hot button issues, including AI, corporate greed, tech addiction, and family life, especially involving teenagers. Don't just take it from me. Oprah said, I was riveted until the very last shocking sentence. But in
Oof.
2026, we're going to change gears a little bit, y'all. So I need you to step out of your normal reading zone, and we're going to bring a new genre to you to hear Erin A. Craig for her adult debut called A Land So Wide. I know a lot of y'all are like, I haven't heard that. Check it out. It's a new genre for probably most of us, but I'm excited to explore it, start something new in January. And just thank y'all so much for joining. I know that if you're watching the recording, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button, I hope. And what helps you with that is you get to find out what author chats are being uploaded. So you can always go back and watch any of these at any time. But as a warning, as always, spoilers are going to be in them. So please read or don't care. But if you want to join us live, you can find out more information on Instagram, LB the Lover of Books, or my Facebook group with the same name. And thank y'all all so much for joining. Heather, do you have anything else you wanted to say good night?
Laura Beth, I just want to thank you because your questions were so thoughtful and so wonderful. And that wrap up that you gave at the end was really generous. And I hope you send it to me so I can keep it somewhere and refer to it when I'm having a hard writing day.
Absolutely. Just know that we're all behind you, and so excited for all the work to bring. And yep, I saw some balloons going off in Buenos Aires. So I think that's our call. Thank y'all so much for
Thank you
joining.
all for being here.
All right. Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.